Not good enough. Will we ever look like real promotion contenders? Can Kieran McKenna improve Ipswich's consistency? Welcome back to Where the Town Walk with myself, Luke, and today we have got Ian. We might see Rich later. We shall see. But let's get started with the Oxford game, Ian. It was very, very disappointing.
It was. I came really buoyed off the Hull win, 2-0 away on just before that, and then looking at Oxford game, I think there was one eye on the game, one eye on the table, and to lose the way we did is bad enough, but then to think, we missed the opportunity to go second on 30 points. So I felt like someone slapped me around the face with a piece of wet cod. That's how I felt at the time.
It was one of them games that definitely left me scratching my head, thinking the first 20 to 30 minutes we had so much control. We actually moved the ball better in that game than we did in the game that we'll get to the whole game. So I was thinking, right, we're really coming into ourselves now, moving the ball well, and then obviously there's an error, which I'm not going to sit here and blame Matthew Seawell for. It happens. It's one of them, isn't it? But that happens, and then you're expecting a reaction, and then it doesn't quite come, and then we finally get one just after the break, and then it obviously all goes pear-shaped on a counter-attack from them, which I think they executed well. I think we obviously got caught with our players way too high. Kipray wasn't quite covering the left channel, but it was very, very frustrating. I think one of we were talking obviously before the record, and one of the issues that it seems to be coming into fruition is just how slow sort of movement and our slow possession in terms of we'll get out, move the ball really well out of the press, and then nothing comes of it because we're just too slow putting our foot on the ball. That's something that needs to improve, isn't it, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned on the Hull game by the pundit that as soon as Ipswich get the ball, the pace is stopped dead, and as we mentioned, we're not looking at counter-attacking being better. What we're looking at is transition from defence to attack being better. I think the games this year we've been really good is where our midfielders swarmed over the ball. As soon as the ball's available, swarm that other team, get the ball, and transition so quickly that the other team is either out of shape or doesn't have time to react to the pace of the likes of Philogene, for example. And that just hasn't been evident the last 3 or 4 games. We get the ball, we put our foot on the ball, we then look to pass it around the other team, and we can have possession for 90 minutes. Unless you actually create and finish a chance, you're always going to be 0-0, or worst case, get caught out on the run like we did against Oxford. So as great it is to see some of this lovely passing game, we need to be able to kind of weigh up, the pros and cons. And I think at the moment, the cons are outweighing the pros on that because we're not getting the results that maybe some of that football deserves. And we've been fortunate, again, we mentioned it last week and a couple of weeks before, that teams around us haven't been performing in a consistent state either. And it's allowed us to drop points, but not potentially drop positions in the table too far. So we can only ride our luck so far. We need to start putting people to the sword.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, again, we said this before the record with our little mini chat. I think there's 2 ways to looking at it. From our eye tests, I think I'm looking at it and I'm thinking we're not creative enough. We're not creating enough big chances, etc. But then you look at the stats. We'll talk about that later on in the show, and the stats are saying, we're the top for big chances missed, etc. But we're not tearing teams apart. These big chances might look on paper, but just when you're watching, we're not clinical. We're not. It's that last ball, isn't it? We'll get out from the counter press, and it's that final ball. It's that final decision. It's all very sloppy. There's a lot of question marks. I think one thing I also want to mention is, do you think the players that either we brought in the summer or players like the Jadens and Jack Clarks that we got before, do you think that you also have to, we question McKenna in terms of the system and stuff, but sometimes you have to question the players. They're just not playing good enough. They're not being clinical enough. They're not taking their chances. I think a lot of responsibility does have to fall on the players' shoulders as well.
Yeah, I don't think, I've seen a couple of training sessions, and McKenna and his staff aren't overbearing on the training ground with the players. It's not a case of, what are you doing? This is the only way we'll do it. And when the players there go for, obviously, they're then worried that they're not following the game plan. He gives them a degree of creativity, freedom. But I do believe that one of the biggest problems, and it's a big area they focus on in American sports, and it's about decision making. Can those players make the correct decisions consistently? And when you look at, for example, in American football, with quarterbacks. They look at certain isometric testing where they look at their ability to make decisions correctly. And, we've touched on it a few times, we can see it with the luxury of TV or up in the stands where the pass should have gone. And the players sometimes aren't making those decisions either quick enough or correctly. Azor getting caught at the back gives away a goal. Philogene trying to take on too many players. Clark trying to take on too many players. And the longer you take in developing the play and the further down the field you go with the ball in developing that play, the more and more opposition players get behind the ball. And when most of the teams we're playing are already looking to set that low block or put 5 players across the back whenever they can, you really are going to have to come up with either some really creative play across the middle, start to put some of these really good exploding shots from outside the box. And we don't see enough of those at the moment. And Jack Taylor, he's got that in his arsenal. He should start doing that more often. We've seen, the likes of Oxford, where the keeper kept spilling the ball. We should have been on that. And our second phase in that particular case was particularly poor, whereas previously it's been fairly good, where like Clark has been following up on the number of times he's got his goals off second phase play. So, that is a worry, I guess, that players have just not got their head in the game. And you're right, accountability to a degree sits with the individuals who have been told to execute a game plan.
Yeah, definitely. I think so we talk about obviously the slow possession. We spoke about the players taking responsibility. The other question I have when I'm looking at the team at the moment is, are we playing players in their best positions? I think you look at Akpom, we've discussed this numerous times on the show, where he's not a number 10. He doesn't play like the number 10 that we like anyway, than the way we want to play. So he's been now tested he come on as a number 9, didn't he? Obviously, he got his goal against Hull, and it's like, okay, maybe is that the answer? Ageli, is he better playing as the 10? Are we sort of not quite finding the players in their right positions currently?
It's interesting. Both those players on their post-match interview. In fact, no. Akpom in his post-match interview was asked, if McKenna put you at 9, do you think you could play the number 9? And Akpom's response is, well, that's the position I've played most of my career. So yes, he's in the wrong position. Egley, on his interview that was on Town TV, he said, I can play the number 10. That's where I expect to be playing. So yes, he is the number 10 as well. So I think you're right. Smodics, Clark, these players were phenomenal at their previous clubs, and they just haven't been on the same level with us. I mean, Smodics particularly, but we don't play them in the same position. So it's all well and good having all the best cars in your garage, but if you don't have a driving license, you can give me the best guitar in the world, I'm still not going to be able to play much more than, single string kind of stuff. You got to play the players, and you got to use the tools correctly. That's what's got to happen. But it means sometimes that the players don't fit in with the other players. So that's why we mentioned about have we compromised Leif Davis's ability to create assists by having Philogene play the way he does. You either have Philogene or Leif Davis play the winger, and we've already realised we can't do that. So we're compromising the ability to get those assists, and that's seen a drop in chances for Hurst because he's not getting the delivery. We're expecting goals to come from the midfield, and that's just not happening.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point, especially about the Leif Davis sort of scenario. I mean, if we maybe played a Schmodics on that left side like we used to play Broadhead in that sort of role, then maybe we'd get the best out of Davis. But then obviously Jaden doesn't play, so it's a bit of a nightmare for the manager. But at the end of the day, their players, Mark Ashton, the board, they brought in. So you'd like to think that they had a bit of a game plan on what they were going to do and how they were going to play. I think that let's talk obviously about the whole game. We did get 3 points. It probably wasn't the prettiest of games. McKenna came out and said that himself, but we did get 3 points, and it's games like that give us then the go, okay, we've got 3 points, and we're starting to think we're going to go on to a run of back-to-back wins, etc. And then we lose. And it's that, I think that's what you talked about, the slap in the face earlier, and I think that's what it was, wasn't it? Because again, it's like this every week. We're never going to learn, are we?
Yeah, I mean, Hull went 6 games unbeaten at home. I mean, they got hammered at the start of the season by Blackburn, and then they just kind of shut shop. So to get a result, and again, another clean sheet. So 2 clean sheets on the bounce was really good and pleasing. That was like one of those results. Like, okay, that shows that we can still get the points when it's scrappy. And that tends to be the difference in, a championship winning team and not. So, to go to Oxford and not to be able to at least emulate some of that success at Hull was disappointing. But, we still shouldn't, turn our nose up at the Hull win, because that was a really good win. And Hull are a team that have turned their fortunes. And if you look at likes of Derby County, for example, it just shows you what 5-6 really good results can do and propel you up the table. So we still have to keep that in mind. We've got a very busy schedule coming up, which we're going to talk about later. We put the Oxford result to one side. We kind of think back to the positives from the Hull's result, and then we look to bounce back from that on Saturday at Portman Road.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we have to. I mean, McKenna's very strong in that, isn't he? He bookmarks it and goes, right, we'll learn the lessons from that game, but you have to be like that as a team, especially obviously as a manager in his position. I think one of the questions he's going to have is how to make us more consistent. How can we go on a consistent? And I'm not even talking consistent in terms of winning games or unbeaten runs, because obviously we were on an unbeaten run, but I mean more consistency in the way we play and the patterns that we want to be seeing and stuff like that. I think that's more what. Do you think, again, player responsibility, or is that a McKenna responsibility to go, right, what do we do here to try and get us more consistency playing the way that we want to play?
So McKenna set the vision. Him and his team have set the vision at the start of the season. This is how I want to play football. Now, the problem with consistency does have there is no real problem with consistency. Let me rephrase that. One of the drawbacks on being consistent in the way you approach a game means that you could therefore become predictable to the opposition. So I know Ipswich are always going to play out from the back. If I know Ipswich are always going to rotate left at the back, which basically means the right pack becomes a back 3, you're always going to send Leif Davis forward. They're already now thinking, how can we exploit that? Well, okay, when we counter, we'll always counter diagonal right. So we'll always push the ball deep and right, because there's a chance that Davis will be out of position. That's what happened against Oxford. You need to be consistent in our approach to games, but we also need to have that dynamic flexibility to adjust the way we play in a game based on what the opposition's seeing. Above all else, you should always scout the other team and approach that game in its own right. If the team wants to play 3 at the back, okay, let's maybe push up further and be more heavy on the press. If a team's going to play with 5 at the back, then we're going to probably need to pad out our midfield to work around them. But I think there are people on social media who say, "Oh, McKenna's been found out. We only got plan A. We don't have a plan B." Well, he does have a plan B, and he does have other ways of kind of skinning that. And that's where we used to look on the likes of Sam Morsey, because he always had the ability to start the dynamic changes in the game. Obviously, they come from the sideline anyway with McKenna, but you do need to have that catalyst in the team. And I think that Dara O'Shea, for all his captain qualities, he's not potentially in the right position to be that catalyst to get us to change the way we play in the middle. That is what I would look at, maybe the Matisiwa kind of position, where Sam Morsey was. The ability to change the dynamics mid-pace in a game. Either slow it down, speed it up, and that's what we're probably missing right now.
Yeah, especially in terms of what we talked about earlier in terms of the slow possession. If you've got a leader in the middle of the park who can recognise that the tempo's not there, they're in that position, aren't they, to be moving that ball quicker. Like I said, Sam, like you said, Sam Morsey used to get the ball. He goes, right, tempo's not here. Next 5 minutes, on 1-2 touches, and then that can then obviously lead into the team actually moving the ball progressively well in that sort of final third. You are right though. You can't be too predictable, and I feel like again sometimes we know what our main attack, our main thing is what we want to do. We want to try and get it to the left hand side. Whatever we can do, we try and fight, whether it's Jaden, Davis, whoever it is. I was sitting watching the game with my missus on Friday, which is her birthday today actually, so happy birthday. So I was sitting down with her, and she's not an avid watcher of football. She watches the Ipswich games, and she was saying we had the ball on the right hand side, and she was like, it's going to go to the left in a second. And what happened? Yeah, diag it onto the left. So clear as day that we're always going to try and get down that road.
Well, that's it. You see Dara in a game, Dara's first check is always left. Yeah. And sometimes Furlong's out there. I'm like, go right. And always checks left. And I think last season we had the likes of, well, in the past we've had the likes of Clark, Wolfenden, Burgess, and even Greaves have taken off on these runs from the back. And the whole pace has changed. The only thing we do from the back right now is that long diagonal ball from O'Shea to either Davis or Philogene. I mean, it's a good ball, but that's the only pace changing play we have at the back at the moment. We're not seeing any of our back line go on these long-legged runs into the midfield, and suddenly that lifts a crowd, and everyone's like, "Okay, we've got something." Which obviously that as a coach, you're like, no, what are you doing? Stay in position, but it does pick up the crowd and kind of helps the team momentum change very quickly.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something we obviously touched on in our sort of 3 questions at the start of the show. It was players need to then take accountability and go, right, what's needed in this game? I know this is the pattern that we're meant to do, but if there's space there, I'm driving forward, etc. So yeah, like I said, in terms of this week, it's left me with quite a few questions on what can we do to improve and what needs to happen, because it feels like we're going somewhere, then we're not. So yeah, we shall see. Obviously, McKenna's the guy who's got, hopefully got the answers, and he can get us playing exactly how he wants on a more regular, consistent basis. But it's the Championship. It's tough. You're going to have games like that. I think he came out, might have been last week actually, when he said it's so easy to remember from the promotion seasons that the games against Southampton, against Sunderland, but there was also the Cardiff game where we lost in the last minute when we were 2-1 up and stuff like that. So it's easy, we still have to remember it's a whole season. It's a long season.
We're far away from being an unbeaten all season team. Yeah, that's a long way away from us. Yeah,
that's far and few between, isn't it? But that's I think we've unpacked that week. I feel a little bit more de-stressed now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've got that out of the system. So let's move on to the following week. Obviously, our next game is actually the rearranged fixture, which is Blackburn away. People keep using that as a guy of going, yeah, we didn't have a good result, but we got that game in hand. We have to make it count. I think if I'm correct, it will only bring us up to 4th, which is unfortunate. If we would have got the win against Oxford, it would have then obviously propelled us into in that 2nd position. But it's still we need to make that game count, don't we? What do we expect the game, and what's your score predictions?
Yeah, you should never count your chickens, should you, before your eggs have hatched. And with Stoke and Mill, we're getting those late results, kind of pushes us down the table, doesn't it? And I'll just remind everybody, I did say at the start of the season, Millwall will be my surprise package. Blackburn away is going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of probably ill feeling from the Rovers fans about the game. I'm hoping that the Ipswich fans go suitably equipped with inflatables and armbands. It's going to be strange because Blackburn have been really inconsistent all season as well. I think they had a good result the weekend. So, we need to be saying we're going to go away and get 3 points. But if you look at our last game and look at the game going ahead, because McKenna says only look at the game ahead, you're kind of seeing a draw all over it. I mean, I want to see that we can turn the things around and we can go and get that kind of potentially scrappy win like we did at Hull. So my heart's probably saying it will be a 1-0 win to Ipswich, but I think my head's probably saying it's going to end up being a 1-1 draw. I think that, the Blackburn Rovers team aren't going to need much of a team talk before this, bearing in mind that they had such a protest against the game being replayed to start with. It'll be interesting how we as a team deal with that. What O'Shea and what McKenna have to say to the players to kind of, let's pick it up. And I think what we need to do is literally go out of the blocks in the first minute and smash them as quickly and as fast and as hard as you can. Get that early goal at Ewood Park. If we're 1-0 up in the first 7 or 8 minutes, which we can do, then that changes the dynamics. If we just let the game roll on to 75 minutes and it's still 0-0, the Blackburn have got to really fancy their chances. So, it'll be interesting. And again, also, we've had a couple of injuries as well. So, QUST's not going to be back. So, Taylor's going to be probably back in the middle again, So, there are going to be players who are probably only about 85%, 90%, kind of revitalised from the weekend's fixtures. So, let's see how that plays on as well. Because, I'm sure some players will have one eye on Saturday with Coventry coming up as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's important because it wasn't a game that was obviously scheduled to be there. So you've obviously coached yourself. When you start the season, you map out a plan, don't you? Obviously, things you have to be adaptable when things change. But there wasn't a game scheduled, so that wasn't been part of the thinking. We've had to adapt, and now obviously we didn't know this at the start of the season, but Coventry are absolutely flying. So now we've got them to worry about at the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what the lineup is against Blackburn, and it'll be interesting to see intensity. Luckily, obviously, we played on the Friday, so we've got a day extra than obviously if we played on the Saturday. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think the way to win that game is to come out firing, come out all guns blazing, go get a goal. Then you haven't given them time to settle because again, quite often games keep rolling. Like you say, it gets to the 75th minute, we still haven't done anything. It was looking that way against Hull, wasn't it? And then obviously we didn't get quick succession. So yeah, I think that's the way to approach it. We shall see. And then that's the Blackburn game. And as mentioned, then we've got the league leaders who are absolutely flying. I would love to. I think that'd be a big game if we can win that game. I think that would also do a lot for confidence within the group.
Yeah, and the Coventry performances just show you what you can do with confidence. Because I don't think that Coventry team is any better than they were last year. It's just the players have all got belief and confidence. You know, Sims had a dire time when he first started at Coventry, but he's found his form. You know, and it's Haji Wright, a player I've long admired at Coventry, is doing well as well. So I think that Coventry didn't think they were going to have such a good season this year. When O'Hare went to Hull, when they went to Sheffield United, they were thinking, it's just we've lost a key player in the middle. But something's clicked with Lampard, and maybe people see comparisons between us and them when we were doing as well as we were in the Championship. But I think the year we were doing well in the Championship, we had some really strong teams like Leicester, Southampton, and Leeds United. In this year, I don't think, other than Coventry, there's been a standout team in the table. So it's open for everybody to put their stamp on this table still, right? Even now, I know Coventry got a 10-point lead, and that's going to be a nice, comfortable kind of gap to take into the Christmas period, which is so busy. It could be a statement piece from either team on Saturday. If Coventry come to Portman Road and beat us, they're basically saying, look, we are the kind of we're going to win this, guys. You might as well just give in. If Ipswich get that win, knowing we've got to play them 2 weeks later as well. That's 6 points to take off Coventry. That would close the gap and certainly, put word out there that Ipswich are still a serious automatic promotion contender.
Yeah. What's your score predictions, mate? What you got?
I'm going to wait actually until after the Blackburn game because I just need to see what happens on Tuesday night because I know that really if we get a good win at Tuesday on Blackburn, we can carry that into the weekend, and I think we could see some fireworks on Saturday against Coventry. They like to score goals. We like to give goals away, but we tend to find we play really well against those teams that push and explore because it gives us a space in the middle. Just with injuries and potential players coming back, it's going to be interesting how we exploit the potential spaces that will be open to us. Do we stick with this Philogene and Clark runs across the box, or do we start to maybe let Jack Taylor off his leash a little bit and say, try it from distance? What we're going to do with Hurst? Are we going to maintain Hurst at the number 9? Are we going to maybe bring Akpom in on a kind of rotation? It'd be interesting to see what happens from the Blackburn game. That will maybe influence what happens then.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna go for the Coventry game. I'm gonna go for a 3-2 classic in favour of Town. I think, like you said, I can see both teams scoring. I've got a feeling that, like you say, when we play against teams that play a little bit more expansive, it allows us to then have a little bit more space. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-2 us, and it's going to put a little bit of a shiver down Coventry's spine, and they're going to think, oh, okay, we're not going to run away with this league. So yeah, that's what I'm going to.
And they will be the best visiting fans all season. I already know that for sure. They were last time they came here. They were excellent.
Oh, they travel. Yeah, they travel. Yeah. It's a big club. Of course, I want us to go and win the league, but it would be nice to see Coventry in the Premier League again. So I'm gonna say that I've got a high amount of respect for them, but yeah, obviously I'd like to see us get a good 3 points against them. Let's hope for. I say, how many times do I say this? Let's hope for a statement week, and we go get 6 points. But yeah, we'll see. I've said that too many times. So yeah, we shall see what happens there. Right, we're on to our next feature, which is the A to Z, and we're on to the letter H for Ipswich. So who or what is your letter?
And we said this before. I think we've been blessed to have probably some of the best captains in English football. They may have not had the most illustrious careers internationally. They may not have scored as many goals, but certainly as a servant to the town and the club, they've been impeccable. I look at things like Mick Mills, who captained his own country, England, as well. And we're very lucky that we were able to get someone like Matt Holland to come to Ipswich, and I think he came from Bournemouth. People who didn't really know who he was, £800,000, but the guy was an absolute legend. And they don't use that term very often, but he captained us and he captained the Republic of Ireland with his statement, lap of honour after every single game. I think he really, bought into the whole culture of it's club and fans before anything, and he's continued that now as one of the club's ambassadors as well. So that's really great to see as well. So so for me, I think Matt Holland he really is one of those genuine nice guys of British football, and I feel blessed that we had him in our team, and to see him lead us to promotion to the Premier League in 2000 was special as well.
For a captain, he comes across like a real nice guy, don't he? Whenever you see him, and he's around the club a lot, he comes across like a really, really nice, genuine guy, which they're important to have in the building and around the sort of club. So that's a strong one. Definitely agree with you with that one, mate. Right, now we are on to our last feature, which is tweet of the week. So touching on briefly what we have already spoken about, but I'll go into what I want from that. So it's McKenna's tactics aren't the problem. We are missing a ridiculous amount of chances. We have the biggest chances missed out of the championship. So obviously we spoke about that we not creative enough, the chances not clinical, etc. Then obviously you look, and we actually had been on an unbeaten run. Do you think that we're being a little bit harsh on ourselves as fans? Do you think we're looking at the club and going, right, we should be first, second, we should be winning every game, we should be flying? Do you think we're being a little bit harsh on ourselves because it shows that we are, having chances, etc.?
See, I'm not sure we have super high expectations. I don't think we expect to win 3-0 every game. I think, and I for any Man United fans who happen to be watching this, I don't mean to offend, but there was that degree of arrogance during the Ferguson years. We'll win every game 3-0. Well, I don't think any Ipswich fan really expects that. But what we've witnessed is potential. And when you see potential in your first 3 games of the season, you go, oh, it's going to be a great season. We looked really good in that pre-season friendly. We looked really good in the first couple of games. Okay, but when it's still only potential that you're witnessing after 15 games in the season, then you scratch your head, go, okay, right, what was potential has now become stifling football. We're not actually making the most of the opportunities that have been laid out in front of us. And then you add into that the mistakes we make. So if we'd have made our chances that have been there, then I don't care that Azel loses the ball in the back. I don't care that Jack Taylor didn't cover the counter-attack and the Oxford go on and win, because we would have made up for that by finishing the opportunities that were laid to us. And I know George Hurst comes in for a lot of stick, but ultimately he can't score unless you get the ball where he can score from. And I think against Oxford, he made some really good runs. He made some good touches on the ball, was unlucky there. But ultimately, we need to create much, much, much more than we are now. And we need to be able to, and we mentioned earlier in the podcast, we need to be able to make our decisions quicker. Okay, we need to be able to release the ball quicker. We need to maybe have more confidence in our own ability. And there's times where the players could maybe have a shot, and in training wouldn't think twice about it and they would hit the target. It just seems that we're letting this kind of a whole lack of execution hang around our necks like a weight, which is far too heavy. And we always say it, let's get a statement win, kind of, it's off our back and we can carry on for the rest of the season. And until we get that, I think we're still going to be, stuck in third gear, as some of the pundits have been saying. I mean, I think everybody sees that Ipswich is, literally, we're not out of third gear, but while we make mistakes at the same time, we're going to get punished. Okay, so let's get rid of the mistakes. Let's try and get out of third gear. Let's try and have more confidence in your own ability. Yeah, and you know what's going to come around the corner is the FA Cup. And of course, in the FA Cup, he's going to rotate the team. I'd be like, no, let's get the strongest team possible in the FA Cup in January. Absolutely smash whoever we play and get the confidence up in the team. And that's why I think, again, people get frustrated when we rotate 4 changes, 5 changes, because we need to get 11 players out there with a good win under the belts to build up the confidence. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's we hold ourselves in this kind of higher level that we should be winning. It's just we know we can be winning better than we are. We know that really we should be in the top 2, especially when you look at the inconsistency of other teams around us.
Yeah, no, I think you've put that brilliantly, and especially the potential has stifled. And I think that's so true. It hasn't quite come into fruition yet. We've seen potential there, but it's not quite happened. And like I said, it's hard. We obviously watch Ipswich inside out. We live and breathe it, so we see that we're not playing more than our potential. Where other fans of other clubs might look at Ipswich and go, "Oh, unbeaten run, creating loads of chances. They're having a fine season," but we see it, don't we? We see that there's so much potential there that we can do more. And I think that's where, as fans, we are slightly frustrated, is because we know we can do more. It might not seem as bad from the outside, but we know we can do more. And I think that's something that we just as a fans just obviously see. You do, don't you? As your fan, as your own club, you actually see it from the inside out. Just a quick question I want to ask you. You mentioned about obviously sticking with the same team, strongest lineups, etc. Do you think on paper against Oxford that was our strongest 11? Do you think that was our strongest 11, or if not, what would you think is our strongest 11? Just our last question of the.
Well, like I said before, the club is the team is built around systems. So I think there's 5 different systems in our starting 11. So I think the way McKenna works it, he might use 3 of those systems in one 11. And if you heard Akpom and people speak, he says, there are 2 11s in this club. And I think that's why Wolverhampton was all about politics. There were 2 teams in the club. And I think at some parts there's a better starting 11 than the second starting 11. And what McKenna's trying to say is, no, I have different systems. If I want to play this system, I'm going to use, we've seen it, haven't we? Substitution. He used to last year, substitute the whole left-hand side or the whole right-hand side. And what he tends to do this year is substitute out the whole midfield. So I think that it would be hard to say that was our strongest team against Oxford. There were parts of the team that were probably our strongest attacking style of play. But I don't think McKenna has on paper his starting 11. Again, he'll have I'll play Leif Davis on the inverse fullback with Philogene playing on the right-hand side, do the crossover, sweeps across the opposing box. Okay, who does that work better with? Does it work better with Nunes in the number 10? Does it work better with Smodics in the number 10? I think it works better with Smodics in the number 10 because he'll drift. So there'll be different systems. And again, he'll change that based on what the opposition looked like. And again, Oxford didn't get the memo about, getting beaten. So, and they've never got the memo about getting beaten, and we've never beaten them down there. So, yeah, I think it's hard to say that wasn't our starting team. I don't really know what our best 11 is.
I think I think that is the issue. No, I don't think any of us can. I think if we had 30 Ipswich fans here, I think every single one of us would have a different strongest lineup. And I think that's another question that we need to know. And I said it's not. I'm not saying that it can't have rotations, because of course about a season you need to have different changes. But I think it's good to know. We go back to our promotion season a couple of seasons ago. We knew our starting 11, but we also knew this sub's going to come on at this time. So there were still systems in play, but you knew there was like a strong sort of starting 11, which we currently don't quite know just yet. But I'm sure we will. Lovely, thank you, Ian, mate. I really appreciate that.
No worries.
Not sure where Rich is. He might be lost somewhere, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching at home. Please like and subscribe and get involved in the comments below, talking all things Ipswich.